This is Geeks Represent, where we talk about representation and issues that matter to us geeks. We are
Daryl,
Sean,
Marshall,
and your host, Joe. We've talked about a variety of topics in Season 1, including some pretty complex and serious issues. And while those are great to talk about, sometimes it's nice to step back and talk about the simple things. Which brings us to tonight's topic, time travel. It's one of the most popular and used aspects of science fiction and fantasy, and there's so many ways it's been portrayed. And yet, anytime it shows up, it just drives us crazy. Here are our thoughts on time travel. So, geeks, why do you think time travel is so popular in fantasy and science fiction?
Personally, I believe it's due to people wanting to change what's wrong with their present. And also, if they had the same opportunities, would they make the same mistakes and or choices?
Yeah, I agree with Marshall. People definitely regret a lot of things when it comes to life, so everyone likes to do a redo, and sometimes people want to live a life where they kind of like did everything right too and see how that life would be as well. So it gives them the possibility of like an else world or various different changes that they can like execute and walk along.
Yeah, and sometimes if people want to look at or like really love history, we want to like travel back in time to like say Roman times or the Middle Ages and things like that and see how life would be like there. And that whole idea can be tantalizing to people. Personally, wouldn't want to go back and live back then. Like you see that question go around. Like if you can live in the past or the future, where would you go? And as a black man who likes Western culture, I like present and hopefully the future. Don't really want to go back.
Agreed.
I forgot where I heard that joke before, where it was like, it might have been Hassan Minhaj. I don't know, but it was like, I think someone's just making a joke about like white privilege and how like time travel is a pretty clear cut one. That if you can travel to any time and still be fine, then you're golden.
I agree. My ex was like, "Oh, it would be nice to live in like the 20s or the 30s," and I'm like, "Nah, man, like we wouldn't be together. Look at you and me." I would probably get stoned on the street,
right?
For like even looking at you. What do you mean?
True.
I like air conditioning and the internet, so I'm fine where I'm at.
I do like soap. Soap is good.
Yeah.
I mean, soap's been around for years. Like, it does just be like bars of animal fat and flowers or something.
That's true. We could start a cultural revolution back then, you know? Like, we can bathe a little more frequently. And people be like, "Damn, you smell good," and they just come up on you and stuff.
So, yeah. I do think that it's an interesting idea to, like, think about. It's an interesting thought experiment, at the very, very least. And trying to see how people act in different ways and different locations is kind of key.
Mm-hmm. And how, like you were saying about like parallel universes or like stemming from like small change or different paths stemming from small changes. It's interesting to see how people's decisions can change so drastically based on like the smallest shit, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes the changes are very, very small, and sometimes, you know, it creates whole different storylines, which can be really interesting to see. Like, what if Bruce Wayne had died instead of his dad, and his dad became Batman, stuff like that. But so what is it about time travel exactly that makes us crazy?
Like, for me personally, you have to establish your rules of like how your time travel works in the beginning and like be consistent with it. Mm-hmm. If you establish your rules only just like to break them for it to be cool, it can be frustrating because you've basically pulled the expectations out from under your audience. Doctor Who kind of does this both ways, because like they've established like you can go back in time and still change stuff, but things will kind of go back to the flow eventually. But there's also like fixed points in time where things have to happen in order for the timeline to be stable. And they did show when you break that, where the Doctor was supposed to die and then he doesn't. The person kills him doesn't kill him. And they show time breaking. It's like everything happens at once at the same time. So you have like dinosaurs rocking the streets while Roman centurions are the police force for Winston Churchill, who's in a relationship with Cleopatra. So all that stuff.
Did Legends of Tomorrow kind of rip that off a little bit?
Yeah, they did break time there as well.
Yeah. See dinosaurs in the streets and shit.
And phew, I guess they are fairly consistent in that there are very little rules, which is perfectly fine. You just have to be consistent with it in my book.
Yeah, that always cheapens it. Like that's kind of one reason why I'll come back to it, but I've pretty much given up on the Flash TV series because they constantly break the time travel rules. Like it's gotten to the point where the rules don't make sense. It's just for they just change them for convenience.
Like time remnants and whatnot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like give me a nice, fixed, stable time loop that closes succinctly, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, they did the same thing in Umbrella Academy with number 5. The paradoxical psychosis, where he met his future self, and he has like horrendous gas. And I'm like,
that was hilarious, though.
Are you serious? You mean tell me you see your future self, and one of the things was you have horrendous gas? I'm like, I figure like you're like trying to touch each other, and, like causing a space rift. Like, no, I gotta take a shit.
Because that's played out. I think they did it on purpose because that was played out. Like they were like, oh, you touch each other, you're gonna annihilate reality. And now let's keep it fun. And he was like, symptoms. Increased paranoia. Everyone's out to get me. You're just saying that. And it was like murderous rage. If you don't listen to me right now, I'm going to kill everyone here. Like, yep, you have the paradox psychosis.
It was perfect. I was like, that's a new trope because I'm like, that's hilarious. It makes it lighthearted because I'm like, he's already paranoid, but like it's increased paranoia versus because his future self is out there trying to kill Kennedy.
Right. Well, it makes sense because, like, time travel is still in theory, so we don't know what would happen, so why not just have fun and make up stuff?
Yeah, especially when the kid whose ability is to jump through time, but he doesn't know how to jump correctly. Nope. Do you ever think maybe calm down and think about where you want to jump? I'll be son of a gun. What? Could have done this the entire time?
Hey, he still has 100% kill rate.
That he does. I'm not refuting that, no.
Yeah. He's still one of my favorites, though. But yeah, my problem with time travel is that there's just so many different like theories, and a lot of them are just unsatisfying. So like one of the more popular ones is the grandfather paradox, where basically if you change something in the past, like say you kill your grandfather, you would cease to exist, but then it causes the problem of like, hey, if you didn't exist, how can you go back to kill your grandfather, right? It just kind of hurts your brain, right? And then the other one, which makes slightly more sense, is the predestination paradox, which isn't really a paradox, but it's like if you went back in time to stop something, you going back in time actually caused it in the first place, But it makes the most sense. But I guess my only problem with that is that it takes away free will. Like, basically, it has happened already, so your future is already set, so you have to do it. And I'm like,
What's a good example of that?
Terminator, actually. At least the first Terminator films. I know the recent ones have kind of opened up the possibility of multiple timelines. But originally, the whole idea was like Kyle was sent back by John Connor to protect Sarah Connor because she's going to be the mother of John Connor, the savior of the human race. But by sending Kyle back, he guaranteed his own birth because Kyle's his father. And like he wouldn't have been born if he hadn't sent Kyle back. So that's a predestination paradox.
Yeah. Sounds like it's also kind of mixed with the grandfather paradox too.
A little bit. It's a little bit, but instead of your actions in the back in time changing the future, your actions in the past solidify the future instead, or guarantee the future. Which isn't, like I said, it's not bad, and it's an interesting thought because then this goes into the whole like, oh, time, is it like, what is time? Is it like in a vacuum, or can it be changed as time goes on, and like goes into all the philosophy, right? So it's interesting. I think just the lack of freedom bothers me, but
And I think Terminator kind of goes back and forth.
Yeah.
I think in the second one.
Yeah, they changed the future in the second one.
And then they pretty much just push the... I was about to say annihilation, but the apocalypse, robot apocalypse, forward in time each time they go back into the past, pretty much.
Or like Skynet doesn't launch, but like the most recent one is like, oh, it wasn't Skynet, but it was a different program that did the basic same thing called Legion. And it's just like...
Is that the one with Doctor Who in it?
That's the one with Ghost Rider in it.
Oh.
Yeah. You remember?
Or Nicolas Cage.
Shoot, what's his name? I don't know, but he played Robbie Reyes in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay, gotcha. I think that's what
Gabriel Luna.
Gabriel Luna. Yeah, Miles Luna is completely different. I think I went to school.
But,
anyway.
But you know what? I actually don't mind that as well, those kind of stories, because that goes into like, you can change the past. You can change like, hey, I want, apple juice instead of orange juice. You can change the small things. But it gives the idea that like the big events, like say a robot apocalypse, like you can push it off or you can change details as much as you want, but eventually it will still happen, right?
So it's like a fixed point in time, like in Doctor Who.
Yeah, or in what was it, like What If, right? Did everyone see that like What If episode with Doctor Strange and how he kept trying? Yeah. Well, spoiler alert: he tries to prevent like someone's death, but that's considered a fixed point in time. And he eventually breaks the point in time, but the consequence is the annihilation of the entire universe. So it's like stuff like that. So it's almost mythological, right? Like a cautionary tale. Like don't fuck with destiny.
Oh yeah, I got those vibes definitely.
Yeah,
that's true. With a lot of old school like poems, like the Odyssey and stuff like that, or Oedipus, they were all like that. Don't fuck with destiny. Yeah, I think another show that kind of plays or makes fun of the predestination paradox is Future Man with Josh Hutcherson in it.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It's funny though. It's like basically a Terminator knockoff, but then it's just like freaking wild. But yeah, like no matter who Josh tries to kill, it ends up off like basically starting the takeover of the war, which in their version it's the biotics, which are like enhanced humans. They're like the Terminator version.
Yeah.
But like if he kills a different person, someone else eventually takes over and that causes the thing. And he's like, every time he's like, what? Why? So yeah.
So why'd you tell me to do this?
Yeah, it was like, why'd you tell me to do this? And then like one case, it was I think himself that caused it by him acting on it. But yeah, that's definitely another example of predestination paradox. I definitely have
example. Stop screwing with the damn timeline.
Yeah, I also definitely have issues when time travel just becomes a little too convenient. Sometimes, like some show might like it could just reverse time so much, but then it's like when something serious happens, like why don't they? You're just gonna let this person die for no reason. Like it kind of like cheapens a lot of like character deaths and stuff like that, or relationships.
Oh, I hate stuff like that. I do hate that when that actually happened in Troll Hunters. I don't know if anyone saw that. It's a Guillermo del Toro animated series, but they had a movie that tied in like all the spinoffs, like Troll Hunters, Three Below, Wizards of Arcadia, and they established, like Daryl was saying, like succinct time travel rules, and then it ended with like a big character death, and it was like such an emotional moment, and like it was this kid. Like, it was this high school kid, and he was, like, the funny one, but, when it first comes to show, he sacrificed his life for everyone else. And then, let's end the movie with time travel and fix everything so no one died.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, that's terrible.
How dare you punch my Kokoro and take it back?
Right? It's like... But you're right. It cheapens it. It makes it less meaningful, right?
Yeah.
Like their sacrifice meant something, or like these deaths get added weight, and you just took that weight away. Like, what? Also, sometimes I forget which ones exactly, but some time travel stories like they go through the whole thing and then they reverse it, so the whole movie didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the fuck was the point? You could have saved us so much time, but. Whatever.
But was it a good ride? I guess it all depends on. like journey before destination, but
I guess. But you know what? No, it doesn't, because yes, they had that journey, but guess what? Then they didn't have that journey because they changed time. So that journey's gone, and the experiences of a lot of people involved are gone too.
Yeah, it guess all depends on the execution for me. I have one thing that I really enjoyed, but then it's two things I really enjoyed and then hated by the end of it because of how the journey and destination concluded. But I'll get into that later.
Okay. Are there any good examples of time travel that everyone likes?
I'll say it. Boruto, when he went to go see Naruto, that was literally one of the most watched anime episodes of the fall of 2021.
Is that only because Boruto finally gave Naruto some respect?
Yes, because Boruto's a little shit. He's like, my dad doesn't know what it's like. Your dad was sitting alone eating ramen while you're sitting here having a damn Game Boy. Your dad barely had friends. You're like, my dad's never here. You know what, kid?
On that
Shut
swing
up.
by himself.
I know, that swing. I swear to God.
It's the Hokage's fault. I blame the Hokage.
Yo, that third Hokage, like, yo, we cannot let the Fourth see what I did to this child.
Yeah.
Like, what's up, third Hokage? Oh,
Close
shit,
the coffin.
He got to heaven, like, oh, shit. Yo, what's up, third Hokage? Uh-huh. Watch my son, huh? What had happened was, I gave him money.
That was it. I gave him my house, and I gave him infinite ramen and milk that expires.
Oh, yeah. And like, what, $15? This will last you for the week. I'm like, what is he, a freaking side chick? Like, damn.
It was like a shitty home, too, in like the middle of nowhere.
Right? I'm like, oh, God.
We're definitely going on a tangent, but did no one else know who son Naruto was? Or did
everyone knew, but they were just being a freaking shit.
Yeah, like, towards the end, I feel like they all knew.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, because like even like Shikamaru was like, "You were my best friend," and then they like talking about him as a kid and like looking back, I'm like, "You were never there. What do you mean?
You were there." Like it's like no one notices. Like the fourth Hokage's hair was yellow. This boy's hair is yellow. I mean, we all got our father's hairstyle. Look at Shikamaru, goddamn carbon copy. It's I don't know who that could be.
He could have been a Yamanaka, like his family.
Oh. This is true.
An illegitimate child of Ichi.
But they treated him better than they treated they treated Sasuke better, and his family tried to kill everybody.
Lord. They really did.
Yeah, they were the village criminals.
Like legit. I'm like, yo, this boy, he like.
But no one can know about this because Sasuke deserves a great life. But fuck this Naruto kid.
Yo, fuck Naruto. You a bitch.
He's the hero of the village.
He's a hero of the village. Yeah, about that, I'm going to twist that around real quick. So
he is the monster.
It's like, you're nothing but a goddamn fox. It's like,
and even worse, no one will tell you why we hate you. We just hate you,
right?
Because you suck.
Yo, if Naruto was like a fucking asshole, I'd be like, you know what? Fuck these guys. I'm going to just destroy the fucking world. He'd do it.
It's a wonder why Naruto didn't join Orochimaru straight away.
Yeah.
Right, like, yo, fuck them people. Like, yo, I'll tell you who your dad was. Who was it? Yo, that guy was a badass. Really? Yep.
And guess what? Your village sucks because they give no respect.
It's like, what? I'll give you more than fucking $15 to some spoiled ass milk, bitch. I'll give you revenge. You know what? I'll take that.
I feel like Kishimoto, Naruto no jutsu'd himself into retroactively, fucking up. Rewriting it.
Right.
Yeah. And Boruto spends $15 a week on ninja playing cards or whatever.
Yeah.
Boruto's a spoiled little shit.
I hated Boruto when I saw it. I'm not about to watch this kid literally disrespect Naruto after what this motherfucker did on his birthday, mind you. He saved the damn world for his birthday. You know what he got? Oh, I got to see my dead dad say happy birthday and then disappear forever. Thank God.
Right.
And lose an arm.
It's he lost an arm too.
He didn't even get promoted. He was still a Genin.
He was still a Genin. So he saved the world, but
he never made
still
it?
a Genin. Oh.
He never made it past Genin.
He never did. It's you saved us all, lost an arm, but you know what? Good job.
He was still Hokage. I feel like that trumps Genin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had to study, though.
It took a while.
Wait, it took a while? I would just give him an honorary doctorate or a degree, whatever.
They're like, there's no shortcuts. Like, bitch, I saved the world. That's not a shortcut. That is the cut.
I blew up the fucking moon.
It's like, whoever...
bitch, what do you want to talk about?
The instructors probably
there's no shortcuts, bitch. I'll cut you right now.
They're probably like, man, this guy only has 4 moves that he uses.
It's like, how big a Rasengan do you need?
But does he use those moves? Like, damn.
Yeah.
You want an army of
the
like
easiest
clones?
moves to use. Hagebushin, Summoning Jutsu, Rasengan. That's it. That's all I got. How big a Rasengan do you need?
The shadow clones and the sexy jutsu, yo.
That saved the day as well.
It did. That bunny, even that like bunny lady demon, like she fucking got stunned for a sec. He was like, wait, I haven't had sex in like 2,000 years.
That damn motherfucker. It's all because of that damn motherfucker. Wait, this woman has pale ass skin, no eyelids, and has fucking horns. I'm a fucker. It's like, I don't want. Fuck you. I know what I'm gonna do.
Gave Sakura no.
That's a time travel story. Hey, stop it. Stop what? Don't do it. You heard me. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Boom. Lord. We went way off the rails anyway.
Yeah. Because we hate Boruto.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Well,
we were there to see Naruto.
That's exactly what happened.
Lord. That's why it got brought back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good time travel story. I got you.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any Stargate fans out there, but I really enjoyed like the Stargate stories because they still establish like you're still making your choices, but it's really cool how like if a change gets made in the past, they don't do the fucking like dusting thing, like, oh no, like things fade out. I always hated that. I always thought that was weird. It made more sense like the changes would be instantaneous, right?
Yeah.
But there was a really cool episode of Stargate Universe where a catastrophe was happening and the ship basically blows up. But so at the last minute, one of them travels back in time to get them to stop. But that catastrophe also led to a lot of them evacuating and to like in an emergency stargating to like a random planet and making the best out of it. And so that's how it ends. The ship blows up. The other one like goes back to try to stop it, and he does. But that other group still happened. And then they basically went thousands of years back in time. And so the current main timeline cast, they literally meet their descendants. And it was a really cool moment because they archived their history and all that, and they got to see how their lives played out. And like, even though they had nothing, they started with like, like it said, like basically space refugees with like very limited equipment and some sad stories, like because in the main timeline, they managed to do surgery on this guy because I think he had a burst appendix or something. But, the other timeline, they were on that random planet, so he died. So a lot of like tragedy, but it was just really cool to see like how their lives played out, like who married who, like who established what are people known for. And they have great moments like their descendants like quoting wise words that from them, from like the geek, and he's like, I didn't design this. So like I said, good time travel stories I feel like explore those like what ifs, explore the emotional depth. But any other good examples? It looks like there's a list.
In the same vein of like what Marshall was talking about, like anime time travel stories, I think DBZ's like Trunks like character in the Android vs. Cell Saga, like introduction of him and how they use like multiple timelines, I thought that was pretty nice because it prevented anything from getting really messy. And I feel like it was kind of one of the earlier stories of like parallel timelines or multiple timelines that we heard of like growing up as kids. Yeah, I thought it was nice and clean where he goes back in time, saves Goku, gets super strong, goes back to his timeline, and beats some ass. So that was like really glorious to see because like his story was like mad tragic, and then you saw him to finally like win and take a W at the end of it. That was really nice.
Well, you, Daryl.
I was about to say that he even beat his own timeline's cell.
Oh yeah,
which was a good look. Even though in another timeline he got beat by that cell, and that cell went back in time to the main DBZ timeline.
That's true. I forgot Cell did time travel.
Yeah, most people forget that. It ties a little knot in things, but yeah. I'm gonna mention something that's on the notes. Well, it's a show from Japan called Kamen Rider Den-O, or Train King, like directly translated. And it's a pretty unique way of time travel. Basically, there's these creatures called Imagine. It's supposed to be like Jin, Genie type things, where they make a contract with somebody, and once they fulfill that contract, they can go back in time to a significant memory of the person they made the contract with. And so it's all like memory based, and then they can go back in time in their full bodies and like do whatever they want. So it's interesting. And the main group and the main person of the show is like a singularity point, which is like a person whose timeline isn't affected by things. And so it's basically him trying to fix things in the future, and if it doesn't work, he goes back to the past and fix things. And it's a pretty cool way of going about it. And there's just another character who's basically the main character's brother-in-law from a future timeline, and he's basically powered by the memories of... Sorry. They introduce his future brother-in-law, but they bring up the character in the present from a different timeline who's powered by the memories of his future self. And they do a lot of cool things with playing with the timeline that way. And it's pretty novel, I'll say. And it was a pretty enjoyable ride.
Nice.
Oh, and it's called Train King because they use a giant train to travel back in time. And they have also rival trains where they kind of have like train fights where they make the tracks generate under the trains and like fight each other with guns and whatnot. Anyway, it's pretty fun.
That sounds stylish as hell.
Yeah.
Sounds better than Time Force.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like those, I guess, saying the right thing, like Chinese New Year's, like dragons. Kind of looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
I'll bring up later when we're talking about bad examples, because there's a movie that kind of like completely breaks everything with it. So anyway.
Of course. Again, breaking continuity, right?
Yeah.
Just to say one time, I will mention just a few other examples. Like one, Donnie Darko. I know that's a controversial one because it still gives me a headache thinking about how the time travel works. Second, Continuum, which is a Canadian series, all about, as the name implies, it's all about time travel, and actually goes pretty in depth into like, you know, how it logically it should work and how they experiment and the implications of like disrupting the timeline. And X-Men Days of Future Past, not the movie. I actually dislike the movie because I don't like how they kind of changed Mystique into a good guy based on Jennifer Lawrence's popularity. So I always thought that was stupid. Mystique is supposed to be treacherous, not an X-Man. So
I mean, she's gone back and forth, hasn't she?
She's to serve herself.
Yeah.
It was always for herself. It's never been out of like a sense of like family loyalty to Xavier, because that came out of fucking nowhere. But to whatever.
She's been on a team for loyalty to like Rogue and her kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not even Nightcrawler. She is loyal to Rogue, but Nightcrawler, who's her biological son, he's like, fuck you. You're ugly. You got a demon tail. What's the who wants you?
She's not the best
teleport. No.
Yeah.
No, because don't forget, she has a third kid with Sabretooth, Graydon Creed. That got the KKK, that basically Marvel's like KKK leader.
Damn.
So no, she's a terrible mom.
Yeah. That ain't great. That's not good.
But that aside, how did you appreciate it time travel wise?
I appreciated the comic book and the cartoon version, like the animated series. They did it pretty well, where like, you know, they established rules like by sending Bishop in time, you have to wear special like wristbands to keep, because if you change something in the past and then you take the wristband off, then you become part of the correction and you'll get sent back to wherever future is you came from. And even established, like, since he's time traveled so many times, he's essentially exists out of time. So eventually you do it enough times, you basically become immune to that. It was just really cool to see, like, you know, like Wolverine and Storm in one future, they're at a time together, become a couple because of like, their, you know, their adventures. Or, you know, both Marvel and DC do a pretty good job, because Marvel has like the Age of Apocalypse storyline where Xavier died, Magneto becomes the leader of the X-Men and wants to like establish peace in honor of his like fallen friend. And you see like Cyclops as like a bad guy, and all, like, again, I feel like comic books, for the most part, maybe less so the movies, which we will get into later. The comic books are pretty good about creating interesting time travel stories. Even though, since there's so many of them, it makes it really hard to establish set rules like the Flashpoint paradox. But still cool to see, like, you know, alternate, like, oh, Martha Wayne becomes the Joker, you know, or stuff like that.
True.
So actually, you know what? Let's get into that. What are some really bad examples of time travel? And we're not going to include comedies like Hot Tub Time Machine or Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, even though Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a great time travel story. I don't know who put that down here. How dare you disrespect?
Butterfly Effect made me cry because it was so crappy.
I thought it was interesting. Again, it established like that issue of like, if you try to change destiny, it's just gonna bite you harder.
I wanted to travel in time and kick that director's ass and say, "You're grounded," because it was garbage.
Ooh.
Damn. All right.
That's just me.
No, that's fair. There was a lot of issues with it for sure, but I don't know. It's like, I think Daryl mentioned it earlier. It's like, if you change this little like thing, how good or bad, how crappy will someone else's life be? Whatever. Like, at one point, didn't he like wake up and to the future and he was a paraplegic?
Yep, that was one of his futures.
Yeah, or in prison, or like a bunch of other crap.
After he read his composition book, I'm like, oh my lord, he did not just say, I need to read this in order to go back in time. No, I'm out. No.
Now I'm curious.
Read my composition book.
Because I haven't seen this movie. I read the original short story, The Sound of Thunder, Ray Bradbury. Good stuff. But now I'm just like, I kind of want to hate watch it.
Wait, I have a question. Do you count like Groundhog Day or Groundhog Day type episodes to be time travel? Like time loop stories?
That's like a loop. That's a loop story. That's not really time travel. It's just going to the same. It's time travel. You have to actually go somewhere different.
True,
like,
but at the same time, does it not like still fall into like that like desire to like do whatever you want without any consequences, or to change something in the past without any consequences in the future?
Then you might as well say Naked with Marlon Wayans on Netflix is time travel.
Oh yeah,
that's just a loop. He was just in a time loop.
Do I want to ask what this movie's about?
He's just butt naked in the elevator, and he has until like I think 5 p.m. to get married. And every time he fucks up, he gets back in the elevator butt naked. Or Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is one.
Time loop and time travel are very different.
Or Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's very good.
With Tom Cruise always running for some random reason. Tom, stop running.
It feels almost like a video game.
He'll never
More
stop
so than
running,
like time travel.
Pretty much.
He's just on a Peloton treadmill all the time. You gotta keep running.
Yeah.
Again,
a niche or a subset of time
travel. Fair enough.
Like then you could like maybe even argue like jumping forward in time is time travel, but I think for this discussion purpose we're going backwards. Like
that's fair.
A good distance.
That's fair. And changing the future versus something like Futurama where you freeze yourself.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Less consequences.
That's cryo. That's Austin Powers then.
Yeah, exactly.
But he did time travel though to the 70s.
Yeah, but I think that's why we were saying comedies, even though
it's a freaking staple. Yeah, baby. It's a staple.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of going all the way back, I was just reminded of a TV show that lasted for one season called Terra Nova.
The
whole premise being, we screwed up the Earth in the present. Let's go all the way back to prehistoric times with like our technology and start over. And it's like, what are you doing? What's the point?
That was the stupidest idea ever. Let's send y'all back to a world whose atmosphere was not fit for humans, and which has dinosaurs that eat humans. Why didn't you just send them back to, I don't know, maybe like 1,000 BC instead of like 1,000,000 BC or whatever? That doesn't make any
like even
sense.
20,000 is fine.
Yeah, just to help change some things. Actually, isn't that kind of the plot to 4400? Like, they kidnapped everyone over time. The people in the future took people from the past and then sent them back to like, I guess like 2004 or whatever to like affect the future because the future's ravaged by like global warming, all that. So
I think so.
To, like, fix things with the idea of like, I like that because they were like, I don't care about fucking up the future because this future's not worth saving. So
spoilers for the reboot, I guess.
There is a reboot. That was weird. I'm like, this is not a show I expected someone would try to reboot. But then again, I thought the same thing about Roswell, so whatever.
True.
I mean, Roswell had like more than one season, though.
So did 4400. 4400 had like
did?
4. Yeah, it had like 4 or 5. It went way off the rails towards the end. It became your typical like people with powers versus people who don't sort of story.
Gotcha.
Or factions or whatever. So whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, since we mentioned X-Men: Days of Future Past comic and cartoon, what did you like about the movie? I like the idea of like similar to like what Daryl was talking about with Kamen Riders, like them sending Wolverine back through his memory instead of actually physically. Yeah. I thought that was a pretty cool idea. I guess, having it change or affect that timeline, which was clearly different to the current one, I think that would probably be my only gripes time travel wise, like paradoxically. Yeah,
it was. I guess my problems with Days of Future Past, the movie, had less to do with the time travel and more of like the characterization. Like I said, I don't like it when villains become popular, and so the writers are like, let's make them good guys so that they can keep going. I'm just like, no, keep them bad. Like, do you want to see Joker team up with the Batman? No. So, but. That being said, I think you're right. It was a cool idea because I think they actually established that in X-Men that the mind transcends time, and that's why some psychics can see the future or see the past of like an object or something like that. So the idea to send Wolverine's mind back in time, if not his body, worked. It worked. It worked for the story.
Yeah.
Although I'm not gonna lie, Honest Trailers pointed out that the plot of Days of Future Past was exactly the same as Terminator. So like. Fair enough.
Yeah. I was going to say, it might not fit in a totally bad example, but maybe an almost good example that ruined itself.
Yeah. It's an almost good example versus something like The Flash, the TV series.
Nope, not talking about that.
Yeah, every time he changes something in the past, something awful happens in the future, and yet, season finale, you know what? I'm just gonna, save my mom and stop her from being dead. I'm just like, fuck it! Did you learn nothing, Barry? What the hell is wrong with you?
He needs Batman to beat his ass. That's
right?
Batman teach him what's up. Shut up, Barry. You quit whining. But I'm just so sad. Shut up.
I'm sad. I'm sad
you made me go through this multiple times, Barry. So shut the hell up.
And they keep changing the rules. Like the whole although, not gonna lie, it almost gets made good by the fact that it's all puppeteered by Reverse Flash, but there's only so many times you can save a season by adding Reverse Flash in it.
And they had
I feel like there's a go-to.
They had a Death Flash because Death was too slow to catch the Flash, so they made, it's a Black Flash because he's so flat. It's Death.
Yeah, Zoom. Yeah.
No,
different guy.
Wait, what?
The Black Flash, not Zoom.
See, you can't even keep track of it anymore.
Yeah, it was actually just Death in the form with the Speed Force because it was the only thing that could catch him.
I thought Zoom turned into Black Flash.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like
but there's still a different Flash. I think I don't know.
Yeah, didn't like the Time Remnants or the Time Phantoms, like Time Wraiths. Catch up with him. Yeah, and he caught up with Reverse Flash. That one version of Reverse Flash, which should have established the rule that Reverse Flash is knocked out of existence, but no, he's still here. Mm-hmm. A version of him that did not vanish is still here, and it still doesn't make any sense why.
And why he looks like Harrison Wells.
To be fair, I love Tom Cavanaugh, but still, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. The Flash is almost ugh. Anyway, let's move on.
It's hard to watch.
It is hard to watch sometimes. If not for the time travel, then the melodrama.
And the whole Flash Time episode kind of breaking all tension for it.
Right. Right. If he can move close to the speed of light like that, what threat is there besides another speedster, which honestly is old? So, you know what? What are some movies that almost got it right? I'll let you, because I got one in mind that pissed me off in the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Okay. Well, let me give some space. Give me space. I'm gonna talk a little bit about one of the Den-O movies. The first one I saw, and the first like Kamen Rider thing I saw in the modern era, like it was the anniversary movie, like 40th anniversary movie for Kamen Rider. It's called O's Den-O All Riders Let's Go Kamen Riders. Very long title. There have been like 8 Den-O movies, so they had to make them original somehow. So basically, the premise is, you know how I mentioned that the whole plot is that people travel back in time using memories?
Yeah.
So the movie starts with some Imagine traveling back in time to a kid's memory. It's like a 10-year-old kid's memories. But he has memories of 1971. So you're like, okay, this is weird. Let's go back in time and see what happens. And the whole plot of this movie is like, they end up leaving some technology in the back in 1971, where the first series premiered, and it led them to a timeline where the bad guys won, and all the bad guys won, and no Kamen Riders exist, and the whole world's in shambles. So they go back in time to try and fix it. They don't fix it. They come back forward in time. The whole time machine's destroyed. They're living in the timeline where everything's messed up. They even like left a couple people back in time, and you see that, oh, one of the characters died. Other characters were in hiding all this time. It's so tragic. And you ultimately find out that no, all the characters, all the Kamen Riders actually existed, because the memory of Kamen Rider never dies, even though it never existed in the first place, because all the Kamen Riders were evil.
Oh, okay.
So, where did they all come from? Especially since all the plots of the early series were like characters being brainwashed, and then or characters being transformed and then not being brainwashed, breaking out before they get brainwashed, and then tearing down the organizations that set them up. So you find out at the end that the kid who had the memories of 1971 is an adult in the present time, in the new timeline. And that's how he has those memories from when he was a kid. But they never actually go back in time to fix the timeline. So like, we're all, like the whole series is living in the timeline where all the evil people won, and it's a post-apocalyptic situation, but no one actually acknowledges it.
Right.
And it's never explained why the kid actually has those memories from 1971 in the main timeline, because that's not how time travel works in that series.
I have a headache.
Sounds like a mess.
So I watched this movie 10 years ago, and I was like contemplating like how the timeline is supposed to work for like years. I saw it again, got really mad because I saw the kid had memories from 1971, and that's never explained at all. And I've tried to summarize it in the most succinct way, because I've literally have drawn this out
to try to figure it out.
Like I was sitting in the shower and like drawing out like how the timeline was supposed to work in like the bubbles on the side of the wall. And I was like, wait a second.
This doesn't work.
So yeah, that drove me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Had some fun sequences, but like time travel was completely not satisfying.
Yeah.
Damn.
You know, for a moment, the plot sounded almost... the first half of the plot sounded almost like how Terminator Dark Fate was, where like the bad guys just came back and just wiped out, 3 movies worth of Terminator movies.
Oh.
You remember? Wait, has everyone seen Dark Fate?
Nah.
Is
It's
that
good.
the one with
Mackenzie Jones?
I was gonna say original Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Back in time.
Yeah. As a Terminator.
Time.
Which was interesting because he had enough time to develop a personality, right? He had like a girlfriend, and he was like, "Why do you like you?" And she's like, "She likes my sense of humor." So, like, I actually enjoyed it. Dark Fate, compared to Salvation. Salvation was actually kind of cool. And Rise of the Machines. That was crap. Rise of the Machines was absolute crap. But Dark Fate was actually not bad. What?
I think I did
Are
see
we
Dark
talking-
Fate.
Oh.
It might have not been memorable, but I definitely like the Rev 9 Gabriel Luna's Terminator because he also had a personality. Like he was with a bunch of, he was disguised as a soldier, and he was with a bunch of other soldiers, and he was just like, yeah, it's like, I'm a one-man weapon, you know? Like, I was like, that's kind of badass.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, exactly. And he knew how to impersonate people. But, so I've been waiting to talk about this for a long time, because honestly, it's a movie that I feel like almost got time travel right, because it's Endgame. It's Avengers Endgame. Because the way they explained it, it made sense that just because you travel back in time, you didn't change your future, because that future is still your past, right? Yeah. So it's still your past, and you can't change your past. All you can do is go into someone else's timeline or go to another timeline, do what you need to do, and then go back to your original timeline. That makes sense. And that was what Captain America was supposed to fucking do. Go back in time. Go back to the timelines that they took the Infinity Stones, put them back so that their universes don't fucking implode, and then come back to the timeline. And he stayed behind because he wanted some pussy. He just wanted to stay there.
Yep.
And I'm like, doesn't this like fuck up Carter's timeline? Because if anyone watched Agent Carter, Captain America going back in time like that disrupts all of Agent Carter. Like, all of that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
He could have done a lot of things during that time, too.
Oh, that's right. That is correct. Like, stop Kennedy's assassination.
He could have, yeah.
Stop MLK's. Stop.
Yeah. He could have done so much, but he didn't. They just decided to get old. And he saw everyone again in the regular timeline, which also didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
How did he get back?
All I could think of is that maybe he went back and then they still created pin particles. So, you know, and after everyone he loved is dead, he's like, all right, I guess it's time for me to go back to where I was supposed to go. But before I leave, hey, this timeline, fuck you, I'm taking the shield.
Yeah, it's like, make this make sense. And then it just old Captain America, I don't think I will.
And then, you know what? Loki makes it even worse, because Loki establishes that, you know, there's supposed to be a prime timeline. Mm-hmm. Like, everything's supposed to be good. Any variance off of it should be fixed so that, you know, everything will be okay. Loki teleports somewhere, and that's enough to, like, you know, arrest him. But fuck, Captain America goes back in time and creates this whole timeline where he gets to be happy.
No one finds him.
Nothing. What's this, like, what? He can do whatever he wants now? That makes it even worse.
And they were so consistent.
Yeah.
Up until that point.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been the perfect movie for me, and then they screwed it up in the last 5 minutes.
You know what, Cap? Fuck you. You went back to get the Soul Stone, right? You went back and stayed for Peggy, but you couldn't be bothered to resurrect Black Widow. He went to where they got the Soul Stone. And no, he just let Black Widow die too. Selfish, Steve. Selfish.
Yeah, he could have traded his old ass soul at the end for Black Widow.
Yeah.
But nah, he's back to his, no, I don't think I will.
Thanks, Joe Biden.
And has anyone actually gone back and watched Endgame? And did you guys see if old Steve was like on the bench the entire time for like that scene?
No, I never noticed. Was he?
I haven't
checked.
But like,
and he's just sitting there waiting, like. I haven't gone back to check, but that would be funny. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Like I'd like it more if that was the case, but that might make my like meter go from like 5 to like 6.
Oh, I just remember a series that had consistent time travel rules and then fucked them over was Heroes.
Mm.
Heroes established a lot, like, again, establishing like, hey, this is a fixed point, like this happens to happen, Charlie has to die. And then a couple of seasons later, let's mix it up. He goes back, you know, we had a whole episode where he kept going back in time to try to save her, and she kept dying. Several seasons later, he goes back and he succeeds in one shot. And I'm just like, what was the fucking point?
That's like the example when it gets used as a tool and it just becomes cheapened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like he got better at it. Whatever.
Yeah. I'm gonna pause you real quick, Joe.
Sure.
Marshall, do you have any last words before you have to go? Like, do you want to cover your most hated / favorite time travel? I'll just...
Yeah, my hated was definitely just Butterfly Effect. That was about the worst one. And then my favorite one, I'd have to say One Piece with the...
Oh, fuck. One Piece.
Spoiler
Of course One Piece wins in time travel. It's long enough to go into it.
Yeah, the Kozuki Samurai.
Very
Thank you very much.
Did it time travel back to when the animation was crap?
They skipped ahead. They went like 20 years in the future.
Yeah. They time jump forward.
Yeah. Thanks to the time fruit.
The way that they did
You're
that
making up
pretty good.
shit.
I am not time
Can
fruit.
confirm.
Yes. Yep.
It's interesting because
Oh, you too, Daryl.
I mean, yeah,
Toki no Mi.
I think I'm the
they
only
can
one.
only travel forward in time. So there's like a big kind of like backstory narrative bomb that we're waiting to see go off because she lived in the time where basically there's a part in history that's called the Void Century where basically all history's been erased in that time, and after that's when the world government has been established. So we're all waiting to see what comes from that.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that there's a time fruit.
Oh, there's a fruit for everything, bro.
Who
There's a
fucking
fruit for
made
everything.
these fruits?
I don't know. The devil. That's the name devil fruit.
That'd be funny. The
devil.
end of the One Piece is just the devil. It's like, here are all the fruits you could ever want.
This is the treasure. This is Jolly Roger's treasure.
They find the meaning of the world. It's the
All
origin,
the
the
fruits.
origin of everything.
Have they still never found the treasure?
Oh, we saw it in one
We
of the
saw
episodes.
it, but didn't get it.
I mean,
Exactly. We just saw him walk in
This
and
is
like,
worse
oh my
than
god, I found One Piece.
Pokemon,
Like,
where Ash loses every fucking major tournament he does.
hey, at least Luffy won some of his battles. He won
Yeah,
all
he
his
didn't get
battles.
his goal.
But the world building
Oh.
is really good in One Piece. Like how they explain the history and everything.
Oh my god. It's amazing.
Someone make a bridge.
it was a part of the flashback showing Gold Roger finding the treasure. It's not like it wasn't present day Luffy being like, oh,
Yep.
that's it, and then leaves.
No.
Oh no. Shanks never saw it. He was on the boat, but he's like, nah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna wait.
Hang out with my boy Bucky.
Boy Buggy.
And of course, there's time travel in One Piece. Anyway,
Yes.
who wrote down Interstellar?
I wrote down Interstellar
Why?
because I was mad. Interstellar was like
So good.
It was
so good.
such an amazing movie.
Visually, right?
And like visually, it was just amazing, and like their concept and how they represented like relativity and how time flexes around gravity and stuff was so cool.
So good.
But then they just backtracked
Jumped the
and
shark.
like slapped and like got super preachy at the end of how like love transcends time.
Yeah, I knew that was when Anne Hathaway said that line, like what towards the beginning of the movie. I was like, okay. I thought you were a scientist.
Like I wouldn't have had as much issues with like the whole bookcase scene where he was able to influence
The dust.
I guess Murph. Yeah, the dust to like talk
Wait,
to Murph.
how did I
If-
still don't know how? Okay, go ahead.
Like if it ended with him like just I guess I don't know not being found, like he like somehow time travel unexplicably, and then he was able to as a result of I guess Murph didn't do nothing. She just saved the people. Like she did. What do you mean? Like I would be cool with him presenting the information to Murph so that she could solve her equation to then save humanity and just leave it at that, as opposed to him also being brought back into the picture where it's like, but how?
Right.
But how?
By the future humans, right, or whatever.
the multi-dimensional being.
Yeah, because I'm like,
But he conveniently outside of Jupiter,
right.
and it's like, and then he still can go get Anne Hathaway.
Right? I'm still, yeah, right? She's still waiting. And I'm just like, also, you said you're okay with the dust scene. I'm not. I'm like, how did that translate to fucking, like, they spent decades trying to figure out this, like, anti-gravity equation. And you, like, gave her the answer through dust.
Well, I mean, I was okay with it because I feel like they kind of established that this is, like, the medium that they were going to go to with how they talk back in time. Yeah. And they did gain the data from that robot, Lars or whatever, like in the black hole. So I think that's what that was what gave them.
I understood like how they got the information. I like that's not the problem. What I had a problem was how he conveyed it through a fucking dust streams, like the dust that you see in sunlight sometimes, and the watch like twitching, and I'm just like, Jessica Chastain's
like, gravity anomaly.
Jessica Chastain's like, oh shit, I should write this down, guys. I got it. Fucking Murph.
Yeah, I mean, he did try through like many different periods of her years.
True.
So it wasn't too much of a stretch. It was a stretch, but it wasn't like ridiculous, I think. But
I mean, otherwise, it was a great movie because I love like the use of like, you know, I forgot the Dyson tubes or whatever in the future.
You know, I mean, I still loved it, even how it ended, but still, I was still mad as a scientist. Murph. Don't go, Murph. Don't go.
Matthew McConaughey.
I want to talk about Christopher Nolan. So I watched Tenet a little bit ago, and I think it was a fun ride up until like the climax where there was a operation going backwards and forwards in time.
Yeah, pincer formation. Because that makes sense.
And it looked cool.
Yeah.
I have no idea how things happened. I was so confused.
I watched it twice. I'm still confused.
My exact words while watching it was, "What is this JoJo's Bizarre Adventure novel?" Because it felt like that, honestly.
I also wanted to know that why the MacGuffin, like that was a straight up MacGuffin. You know it. They were like, "Oh, this is the equation for reverting time in the shape of blocks," and I'm just like, "What?"
Some really weird hard drive.
Also, instead of hiding them or separating them through time, how will you just destroy them? Like, just get rid of them. If they're so fucking dangerous, get rid of them. Hell, put like a dent in it, and then the equation's ruined. Promise.
I didn't actually see the movie. So, do they travel both forward and backwards at the same time, or is the movie presenting a forward flow and a back flow?
Yes.
All at once.
Yeah.
Is it like Memento mixed with like time travel?
You know what? It is like Memento, because Memento was also confusing as fuck. but
they were going forward and back at the same time.
So basically, there's a machine that can flip-flop your flow of time. You can either go forward or backwards. And then there's also certain weapons that can do the same thing. So, like, if there was a bullet hole in a wall and someone's standing in front of it, you can, like, recall the bullet into a gun. And then which would
it, like, go through
them and kill them. Yeah. And, like, do irreparable damage. But I remember someone asking, like, Christopher Nolan if this is accurate, and he's like, no. It's just like... they were just playing around with, like, cool ideas about, like, if you could revert time, like, the flow of time, what would it look like?
Yeah.
That sounds like some Rick and Morty shit, where, like, you would, like, figure a way to revert the time out to just kill someone.
But here's the thing about Tenet. I might not understand the rules, but at least they keep consistent, and they establish some rules. Like, for example, if you're going backwards in time and you get burned to death, or, like, you're caught on fire, that fire actually freezes you to death because, like, instead of heat, it's going like one way, like exerting heat is exerting cold, like reverting.
Like taking away heat.
Exactly. stuff like that. Or like you can't breathe the same air because the air is flowing in one direction at a time. You need to breathe air that's
reversible processes.
Because if you breathe in normal air while you're flowing backwards in time, you're actually breathing in carbon dioxide. So stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
It's stuff like that. It made it interesting. Still fucking like there's an SNL joke where like the song's called like Loco and how like quarantine's made him crazy, and Pete Davidson's like, I watched Tenet, I had no questions.
Jeez.
Yeah, like that. I'm either a genius or I'm loco. So
yeah, the conclusion had the principal formation of people moving backwards and forwards in time, where like when you see the main character coming in, you see the opposite force leaving, and they're like walking backwards, go like. I guess they're walking backwards
from their perspective,
going into
going back into like their little boxes that will keep their timeline going.
Yeah. They're transports essentially, and like eventually by the end of that sequence, you see those people going out in the same way, and the main character like also going backwards. So it's weird, it's cool, but when you have that many people all wearing fatigues, all wearing masks,
it gets confusing who's going forwards and backwards.
Yeah, especially when you have enemies that are also going forwards and backwards as well. So
what it was also like just hard to track which character was which and who. Okay.
It did have cool sequences because it did say like it does establish like free will still in play. Like it wouldn't have happened if you didn't do this, but obviously it wasn't predestined that guy got sucked into a wall. Like a wall was supposed to. A wall that was already blown up, it reverses so the wall reconstructs itself, but someone is standing in the way of the wall, so they end up getting encased and die in the wall. Stuff like that.
So it almost sounds like there's some linearity, but it's more like playing with reversible processes.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that sounds.
It's a really cool, visually cool movie. Just don't think about it too much.
So like. Time is not really traveled so much, more so just played with, I guess, the flow.
More like rewinded,
okay. That's okay, that sounds really cool then.
Still doesn't make any sense though. But out of all the time travel stuff I've ever seen, that was the one that was most confusing. But yeah.
Still watch it. I'd recommend it.
So now, since we're talking about that, if that counts as time travel, does Loki count as time travel series? Because I think Loki like opened up a lot more, right? Again, the one time travel theory I accept is the multiverse theory, right? Like if you change something in time, then you create a new. Hell, as soon as you step foot on another time, it creates like another timeline. Unless, and I love the idea that they played around with like. The only times you can avoid causing another timeline is in like places of great catastrophe, right? Like apocalyptic events that kill everyone anyway. So what timeline did you change anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that was ingenious.
I think it should count because technically they do exist outside of time and at the end of time. So they can go, they were able to like jump at any timeline really. So that's technically time travel. And then, it was cool to see how they like dealt with those paradoxes with like as you said, they'll either snip people out of a timeline that like branched off or as you said, apocalyptic timeline. It just
let it happen.
Just nothing happens anyway.
Yeah, you can do whatever the hell you want. Isn't that what he did? Like Loki went to like Pompeii and was like, hey guys, look at these magic tricks, yada yada. And just starts like kicking chicken stands and whatever. It's like, I'm doing all of this and it has no effect on the future because you're all about to die. So it worked out.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
But
I'll say go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna ask, like, so how does Loki and What If exist? Or does all of What If happen after Loki, after the ending of Loki?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's what they're going for.
Because I'm like, how is it possible for What If to happen if there's a time TVA to stop it all? But then the TVA starts imploding on itself because now they're in the multiverse. So you got a multiverse monitoring station, which is also part of the multiverse, which makes infinity squared now, and makes my brain melt.
Yeah, they went up another layer with that. Yeah, I would say their ideas and what they play with time travel seems pretty solid. Like I can't see any glaring flaws. The only glaring flaw was that it was only 6 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and they rushed things.
Season 2 confirmed, though.
Yeah, cool.
That's true.
I'm excited to see if Kang comes back, and it also made me interested to see how Kang's going to be in Ant-Man. Of all movies, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Yeah,
because his storyline sounded like what would happen at the Council of Ricks. Just decided to fucking kill each other.
Yeah.
And only there was one left standing, and he was like, you know what? I can't have more of me. So I have more of no one. So.
But then if one gets killed, then it unlocks all the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that does sound very Council of Rickish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all I just want is for time travel movies and TV shows, media, is to be consistent.
Loki's good. I hope they explain Endgame. I wish.
Yeah.
Like I said,
I hope.
Yeah, we're good.
They need to jail that bad boy.
Right? or at least show that, like, you know, at the end Steve was like, you know, he got some Pym particles, because it would make sense for his timeline to have Pym particles, and use that to come back to his original timeline instead of going back and making things not make sense. So.
Yeah. Or like Steve having been like grabbed by the TVA, but then they would like judge him that, like, I don't know, maybe he's
a hero.
He's a hero because he was the only, like, one of many billion whatever timeline possibilities that actually succided at stopping Thanos. True. And they were like, cool.
And I guess
and like, we'll let you live your life, and then
as well.
What happened?
He kind of fixed timeline as well, so maybe pardon that way.
Yeah. That's true.
If they do something like that, I think that would remedy, I guess, the issue. But I don't know if they would.
No, they won't go back to it. Fuck you, Russo brothers.
Because Chris Evans his contract's done, right?
yeah. I'm pretty sure he wasn't even in What If. That was Yuri Lowenthal playing it. So yeah. And even though it is a classic, I Back to the Future again plays around the grandfather paradox a little too much, where like, oh, they changed something and then his photo starts disappearing. Yeah, and I'm just like, that's not how it works. Great movies.
Like, you better hop on it.
Great movies, but you know, I mean, they never reboot Back to the Future. They're classic, though, regardless. At least the first one was, and the second one. Third one got weird with the cowboy shit. But,
yeah, I mean, I will say, I'm not sure exactly if this is predestination or not, but I do like to think we live in the timeline that travel happened, and in that resulting timeline. If it happens, if time travel existed, we're in that timeline, and there's no other variants because we're just been affected by it already. That's
true. That keeps it locked in. You know, actually, Gargoyles did play around with that, and while again, it kind of, I guess you could still say it's free will involved, but if you look outside of time, if you look from inside of time, everything's still a result of your choices. It's only when you look at it from outside of time, you know, that, you know, it looks like it's set in stone. But Gargoyles play around with that. Where like he traveled back in time and tried to, like, you know, if you know the story, his beloved becomes the main villain of the series. So he goes back in time and tries to tell her, like, don't stop thinking about the future, live in the now, like, love the ones, like, don't have hate in your heart. And then when he comes back to the future, she wakes up and he is like, don't think I like forgot. I remember that. I never forgot it. I just don't care. And it's just like, just establishing, like, you know, these things are finite, you know. So they're still a result of choices made. So yeah, predestination doesn't always have to be bad, I guess.
No. And all in all, this is all just for fun.
That's true. They're good thought exercises. Until someone actually establishes time travel, we'll never know. And you shouldn't, because you shouldn't fuck with the timeline, Barry. Like, didn't like Diggle like drill into him because it caused like the loss of a daughter that he never got to know?
Yeah, but then Oliver Queen at the end of it.
Oh, that's true. Retconned everything, made it all right. So now you have both.
Got your wish, Diggle. Mom back to life though, or dad.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Or you know who else he didn't bring back? Black Canary.
No.
She just dead. Although I think it was implied that she died of her own choices. Like, even though he brought her back, she still died because she made her own choices in that timeline.
But then her alternate universe person is still walking around.
The Colonel? Yeah.
Black Siren.
Yeah, the Colonel.
Oh, well, I said Colonel. Anyway. Yeah.
Oh, Arrow. Again, stop changing the rules, basically. There's so many plot holes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. I mean, yeah, speaking of like predestination paradoxes, like that actually reminds me of like my favorite, like one of my favorite animes of all time, Steins Gate, which covers a lot of ideas of time travel stories. It's very similar. Like they first start out like kind of sending data back in time to like influence their past selves to affect another future. And that kind of reminds me of what Daryl was saying with like sending memories back in time, like accessing memories, because the main guy, he has memories of every like time travel jump that he does. So he's always trying to like change things throughout the whole series. And it's pretty cool because they cover that. They cover data time travel, and they cover actual physical time travel, and they cover a lot of ideas with like a main timeline branch, and like everything that's variants of it kind of are still influenced by the general flow of that. So that kind of gives like the whole idea of predestination. So he's always like trying to fix something, but when he fixed something, that ended up setting another action to go in that direction. So he has to basically choose between A or B happening. Both are traumatic events for him, and he can't resolve both. So I don't want to spoil too much, but like there are different ways that they explain how he's like kind of able to succeed, and that ends up going with, oh, you have a free will, and that's where there's like a completely different like mainstream timeline that he just jumped to. And that's where things like get covered in their second series, Steingate Zero, which is like the timeline where things didn't go well at all. And like the first series is like happy. The second one is like kind of depressing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've heard of Steins Gate many times.
It's really good. I still have to finish the second series because my gosh, even though it's awesome, it's slow as hell.
Slow burn.
Like the first series, like I didn't really get into it until like it's like 26 episodes. I didn't get into it till like episode 15 or so, where I was like, things were like picking up the pace, and you're like, all right, I see where they're going now. Because like before, they're kind of like dicking around, like, oh, how does time travel works? And there's like no big repercussions yet until like he realized that there are, and then he's like, fuck, I gotta fix all these things, and then he has to deal with the consequences of his actions. So yeah, that was Steins Gate.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list. It's been on my list for a while to catch up on.
Yeah. Cool.
And I'll just point out one of my favorites as well. It's a very short part of the arc, but JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4 has a really fun time loop that they play with.
Oh yeah, they did really good with that one.
It's so good. Basically, the main villain of the arc is a serial killer. And he gets the ability to tell somebody his secret that he kills people. And if that person tells someone else, the person he tells automatically is killed. But that also sets up like a time loop where the person who knows So that this initial seed person who knows goes back in time. And if you tell someone else, that person is killed. As well as the person that is told in the previous time loop. So it's like an automatic way of getting rid of evidence. And the way that the main character, well, it's not even the main character, this like 6-year-old, 8-year-old maybe, I don't know.
He has like an 11-year-old genius or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Elementary school kid figures out a way for him to get out for the time loop is pretty perfect. So
yeah, especially when like no one else has any experience, or even the villain didn't have any idea of like what's happening.
Yeah, that was unique about it.
Yeah, because he went back to the time where before even the villain knew that he was, but the villain can catch on because he was so observant. He was like, "Oh shit, he's doing this," and then like it's seeing them like try to interact and prevent each other from like executing whatever plan they had. It was really well done.
It was mind games. That's some good JoJo's Bizarre Adventure nonsense. Not like Tenet.
Yeah. He was a weird one. I'm surprised Harry Potter didn't come up, even though the time travel is only used.
Oh yeah. It was so easy. They could. That was simple. Now that I remember,
that was a simple one. Using the time turner, all she did was use it to give herself more time to study. Which I'm like, you license a 13-year-old girl to use a time machine so that she could get better grades and like overload her class load. Like,
so many bad ideas.
They could have like prevented so many things from happening, like Voldemort rising to power, or like so many other deaths.
But they went into predestination, didn't they? Like it was established. Like by the end of the third book, you realize like it seemed like they killed the hippogriff, but really it's gone because it escaped, and it's escaped because they caused it to escape, like stuff like that, right? Or like Harry saw his father, but really he saw himself.
Yeah.
So, like, which kind of negates the whole thing where Hermione is like, you can't use it that way or you might kill yourself, like, by accident. And I'm like, no, you can't, because you didn't. Boom.
Yeah.
You're wrong, Hermione.
And thankfully, they got rid of all of them in, like, the 7th book, I think.
Yeah, in the 5th book. Yeah. They trashed the time room. Yeah. That actually, because I think one of the Death Eaters died in a really weird way, right? Like his face got stuck in one of the time turners, and when they removed it, his head was a baby on an adult man.
Was it?
And I was
that's pretty gruesome.
And I was just like, "What the fuck?" Reminded me of like Benjamin Button, like the end of Benjamin Button. When,
Oh man.
So.
Ugh.
God, time is a force not to be messed with, and whoever someone's gonna invent time travel in the future, and it's gonna be hopefully not affect our timeline. Again, multiverse theory. They just create their own.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if they do create time travel, it'll probably multiverse theory, because I feel like the way the universe is stacked up, multiverse is very more leaning towards being favorable interpretation of like how things operate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If not, we're completely screwed because we can barely handle guns.
Right. Right. Hey, here's something out. Here's a thing in your bake your noodle. If we live in a universe where multiverse theory is possible, then there's a universe where it's not possible.
No.
No.
Damn.
Because your universe still exists.
No,
so
but think about it, like
it would still be part of the multiverse.
The idea of the multiverse is that anything that's possible, like everything that's possible, there's a universe that it's true. That one possibility is that it doesn't exist. Nah. Well, damn, all right.
Maybe it doesn't work from that universe, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist because
we
did it.
Oh god, my brain.
It would mean like you just don't have access to it.
True.
Like you would know
it would be closed off.
Yeah. It would still exist, but you wouldn't know.
It would be closed off.
Yeah.
I guess that works. I like that Sean is wearing. I just noticed that there's like a mathematical shirt.
Yeah, it's Star Wars.
May the Force be with
It's
you.
the
Solid. Yeah. A series that surprisingly does not explore time travel.
Good. George Lucas couldn't handle it.
Right.
I'm trying to think back to any expanding universe stuff I can think of, but I don't think they actually do it.
I can't.
Thankfully,
I don't think they ever did in Star Wars Rebels either, or any like Clone Wars.
They'll probably come with some whack agent of the time travel, like they came with midichlorians.
Sith time travelers. That's just a bad time.
That's just breaking the Force. There's not a destruction.
Time of chlorians.
There's not. That's beyond disturbing the Force. Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about before we head off? I've noticed we never brought up Power Rangers Time Force, which I'm very surprised. Oh no!
Well, I guess that might be it.
All right.
I was going to mention ReZero, but that could be a time something for another episode.
For another time.
Way to force that joke in.
Time Force. All right.
Oh, man.
And with that, so listeners, what are some of your favorite or most hated examples of time travel? Leave your comments below. Thank you for tuning in to Geeks Represent. If you've enjoyed this discussion, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts can be found. If you want to add to this discussion,